Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
The truth shall set you free.
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
No. I am your father.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
I don't want to brag, but I will. I was in the Avengers.
The Avengers?
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. What is that?
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hello and welcome to the Creative Control Movie Podcast. I'm your host Kenan and thank you for joining us either for the first time or once again. And this time we're on episode 64. Joining me from the Creative Control team this week, we have Sacha and Alex. How you guys doing?
All good, thanks. All good.
Sacha giving the salute. I think Alex is has developed a little bit of a cough. So if there is any coughing on the track, that's down to him.
It will be me.
And I'm not going to go back and edit it all out. So he's got his finger hovered over the mute button whenever he can. Sacha, how are you feeling? Have you managed to escape the illnesses going around at the moment?
I haven't caught ill all year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I suppose you don't leave your house on a regular basis, but when you do, you leave for like months or days. So it's like, yeah. All right, cool. Well, today's topic, we are back going retro. We are going back to the 80s once again, and this time we are talking about the top 10 films of 1983. So if you're not familiar with this format, basically we decided that a lot of the films from our youth are not always shown a lot of love, or a lot of the films are actually glanced over because people do top 10 lists of the 1980s and a lot of films get missed. And this was a great opportunity for us to discuss those. And I've learned a lot actually myself from this. And I've gone back and watched a lot of movies that have been recommended. And I've started making sure that all the films that have been mentioned, I'm ticking them off and getting them watched. So it's been really good for me. So we started off with 1980. So we did top 10 films of 80 and we've done 81 and 82. So if you haven't checked those out, please make sure you go back and check those out. And hopefully you'll find a few nice surprises in there, stuff that you may never have heard of before. I certainly hadn't. And yeah, I'm all the better for it in my movie knowledge and movie appreciation. So 1983, that is going to be where we're at. But just before we do that, I just want to say thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for listening as always. And if you're new, welcome. We are Creative Control. Basically, we are a group of nerds who like to talk about movies. And we try and come up with concepts and ideas. We take franchises and say what we would do with them. We review movies. We cast future movies. All that kind of stuff. So if you're a fan of film, hopefully you'll enjoy yourself. But yeah, you can catch us on any podcast platform. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible. And for the video version, you can catch us on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. And also the video and audio versions are both available on Spotify. Right. So if you're not familiar with the format, what we tend to do is wherever is on the podcast, we will nominate, go sort of like a round robin and nominate a film to make our top 10 list. We'll at the end then obviously talk through our own top 10 lists in total, but it's going to be a combination of the three of us on this episode. So what's going to happen is the three of us will each give 3 nominations each, and that will give us 9. And then we'll fight it out for the last spot. Whichever film we need to make up that last top 10. Sometimes you take it from our WhatsApp group, so everybody who appears on the show is part of a WhatsApp group, but nobody put forward a list this time, so busy week, towards Christmas, so it's just down to us 3 this time, guys. Now, does anybody want to go first for their first pick? And again, this doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be ranking them in order, so it's just going to be a top 10 of 1983. However, I know Alex and particularly Sacha, they definitely rank their movies in terms of their number 1 spot down to 10. I'm kind of more of this is kind of my top 10. This is kind of nearer the top, lower the bottom. But I know Sacha in particular, he's like, no, I'm ranking these sons of bitches. So he'll give us his full top 10 to make sure that anything that we haven't mentioned, he mentions. Because again, it's all about learning about movies. So Alex, Sacha, is either one of you want to go first?
I don't mind. I'll go if you want, Satch.
Yeah, go
I feel like I couldn't do a Star Wars fan without saying Return of the Jedi.
Hey, it had to be, right? Star Wars Return of the Jedi, later rebranded episode 6. It was the biggest grossing movie of 1983. Was it really?
Yes, it was.
No.
Yes,
was it?
100%. So he didn't started putting the episode numbers until they re-released Star Wars in 1980.
Right. Okay.
So
So
it's
by the
always
time
been-
Return of the Jedi come out, it was actually called Episode 6.
Yes, it was. Even Empire was episode 5.
Wow. Okay. I've been educated, and this is what we're about. So, all right. Cool. Alex, why did
Only Star Wars? Only Star Wars.
the first
Because Star
one?
Wars was titled Star Wars, and that was it.
That's it.
And then,
That was it. Yeah.
and then around 1980 or 79 or something, one of the re-releases, because they re-release movies more often back then, they
That's right.
changed it to Episode 4, A New Hope. So yeah.
Ah, okay. That's some great trivia there. That'd be good for a pub quiz knowledge. Alex, what did you like about Return of the Jedi then?
As a Star Wars fan, obviously Empire is still the number one out of the trilogy, but it closed out the trilogy as a kid. I mean, everyone sort of bitches a bit about it. You watch stuff now, but as a kid, I loved it. It was great. How could you be a Star Wars fan and not put this in your list of 1980s, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Star Wars Return of the Jedi. It was actually the first Star Wars movie I saw. I wasn't that much of a nerd for it when I was very younger. That's even a proper sentence. When I was much younger. But I was actually working with my dad up in Oxford Street in his shop, and it was like kind of a treat for working with him for the weekend. And he took me to HMV in Oxford Street, and he's like, right, you can pick one movie to watch, to buy a VHS. And I looked at it, and I just saw the cover. And saw the cover of it, this guy with a sort of like light sword and the Ewoks and everything on the front cover. And I was just like, yo, this looks cool. And I read the back of it and I was like, yeah, I'm into this. I'll watch it. And I watched that. And that's actually how I got into Star Wars. So yeah, Return of the Jedi was actually the first one I saw. And then went back and discovered the others. So yeah, because of the time it came out, I was born in 81. This came in 83. It's not like we saw these in the cinema. So yeah, that's how I first discovered Star Wars and Return of the Jedi. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Some people find, when they're ranking all of them, sometimes it even ranks lower than some of the prequels and stuff like that, which I find quite strange. But I think it was a solid movie, great into the trilogy. It wrapped up all the stories really well. I wasn't a particular fan of the way they changed the end of it and put Hayden Christensen in as Vader. I can kind of understand it for connecting to the original movies, but yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that change. But I thought the end scene in particular was really powerful, like him and Luke, him converting his father back to the light, and then they undid all that by making 3 more movies called 7, 8, and 9, and destroyed the Skywalker saga. But anyway, we're talking about Return of the Jedi. Sash, what did you like about Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, what's there not to like, man? You said it there. Where does it sit in my list of films of all time? It's one of the best films ever made, hands down. I say that because I never put the Star Wars films in my top 10 because it's like Sophie's Choice for me. It's like those 3 films.
You consider them as almost like one entity.
Yeah,
right?
That's it. That's with me. Like one day I might feel for Star Wars more. One day I might feel for Empire more. One day I might feel for Jedi more. I know Jedi is probably I know deep down, like realistically, objectively, Jedi is probably the worst film out of the 3 kind of thing. Let's be honest, but I love all 3 of those movies that much. I can't, you know what I mean? I can't, you know what I mean? I can't do one, you know what I mean? Out of them. Like, sure, Empire is technically the best one. You know what I mean? And I acknowledge that. But when I was a kid, it was like all 3 of them. You know what I mean? Like it's the perfect trilogy in my book. Okay. Forget all the prequels, the sequels or whatnot, is the daddy for me. Okay. Like every film trilogy was basically based on those off the foundations of those 3 films. Every studio tried to replicate what Star Wars did. What Lord of the Rings was in the early 2000s is what Star Wars was in the 80s. And I'll go so far to say what the Marvel Cinematic Universe was. It's kind of following in the same footsteps, because I'd say Endgame was a Return of the Jedi of today kind of thing, because it was a culmination. All of, it was like the finale. And when you look at Return of the Jedi, even now, it's like the story should have ended there, really. Like, should just ended there.
Yeah,
but
that was the end of the saga.
It's a whole other debate. I'm not going to divulge into it.
No, that's for another time.
Yeah, it's for another time. But like,
and we've spoken about it in loads of other episodes as well.
yeah,
but
exactly. So, you know, and plus, like you said, like you know, for all its weak moments is, or what people perceive as weak moments is, end of the day, the payoff at the end, Luke versus Vader,
Mm-hmm.
everything in that Emperor's throne room is gold, is
Gold.
fire. Everything is fire. Luke Skywalker as well in that movie just rocks into Jabba's palace like a bad man. Luke is
Yes.
a whiny little punk on the farm telling Han Solo how to drive the Millennium Falcon and shit and all of this shit. And I just walking in like a bad boy, just like, you know,
Boy became a man.
force choking Mandalorian guards. You know what I mean? Shit talking Jabba the Hutt. You know what I mean? He's like literally like, yo, fat slug, hush your mouth. I's Jedi, give me my friends, innit? And then just kills his rancor, and he's just calm. He's not even freaking out. He's just calm. It's like all part of the plan, man. You know? And like fucking yeah, man. What's there not to love about Return of Jedi? Really, really.
A Jedi,
Ewoks,
like my father before me.
People that hate Ewoks, fuck you. I love Ewoks. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That moment when that one gets injured or technically killed, that's a moment.
Yeah.
You know, where he goes to comfort him, he's like rocking him. It's like, come on, come on. It's like, no. It's like, oh, no words are spoken, but you feel it. I don't care.
They will fuck your shit up as well, man.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
They're feral creatures, man. They'll fuck the Empire up, man. And they did. So, you know, they're prepared to eat you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it.
They were going to eat up Han Solo. They were going to barbecue him, put some herbs and herbs and spices and go nuts, man. But, you know.
Often the directors of the trilogy kind of get forgotten, and this was directed by Richard Marquand, and he's only one of 2 non-American directors to direct a Star Wars film. So it's him and then Gareth Edwards for Rogue One in 2016. So up until then, he was the only one to do it. But he died relatively quickly after the movie. So he died in 1987 from a stroke at like 49 years old. So he never really got to see the success of that franchise like many other people that have been a part of it. So, but you know, it was his biggest hit, obviously. But yeah, no, he's often gets forgotten, that director. Right, let's move on to our second movie, and I'll pick with this one. So I will put my film in, and I'm gonna go with Trading Places. That is where I need to be. It probably is number 2 on my list. It's a great comedy. It's in our top 10 Christmas movies as well. So if you haven't checked that episode out, go check that out. It is a fantastic Christmas movie. It is a Christmas movie. And if you're not familiar with Trading Places, it stars Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. And Dan Aykroyd plays Lewis Winthorpe III. He's a businessman who works in commodities in a brokerage firm by Duke and Duke, owned by the brothers Mortimer and Randolph Duke. Now they bicker over the most trivial things, and you know, they're high flyers, loads of money. So for them, it's just about trying to find the humor and in everyday life. So they start bickering about what, and it's quite a deep thing actually, whether it's a person's environment or hereditary that determines how well they'll do in life. So it's like a social study in a sense. And so Winthorpe bumps into Billy Ray Valentine. He's a street hustler who's Eddie Murphy, and he assumes he's trying to rob him, and he gets him arrested. And then seeing how different the lives are of these two characters, like, well, what if we were to swap? What if Winthorpe was to lose his job, his home, he's shunned by everybody that he knew previously, and then Valentine takes his job, and they make that happen. So they make it so Winthorpe gets done for a crime he didn't commit. He gets arrested. He loses his fiance, his money, everything. He ends up on, technically on the streets. But then he meets up with a hooker who is Jamie Lee Curtis, because she's used by the brothers to act as somebody that he knows in front of his wife and friends and stuff, well, his fiance and friends, to add all part of the plan. And she then decides to help him try and get back on his feet. Winthorpe and Valentine discover the scheme that's going on between the two, and then basically they set about doing a turntables on the other guys to make him lose all their money. So, really fantastic film, great comedy. Jamie Lee Curtis is great in this as well, and she hadn't done much previous to this. She was very well known for her Halloween movies, but she was apparently a really hard sell to the studio because she'd never done comedy before. But she was great in it. Eddie Murphy, I think this was only like his second movie as well, so he wasn't well established. So it was just a culmination of some really great talent coming at a really great time. And it was directed by John Landis, he'd done comedy before. He'd done Lampoon's Animal House, National Lampoon's Animal House. He'd done Blue Brothers, and he'd done American Werewolf in London. So he'd had a really good track record up until this point. And it was just, yeah, like I say, a combination of really great talent in front of the camera, behind the camera, and a really, really fun film. Sacha, thoughts on Trading Places?
It was my number 2. It's now my number 3.
Oh, interesting. Right. Okay. All right. All right. As you mentioned, Sash, so what's it about Trading Places for you?
It's Eddie Murphy at the height of his star power kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's Stan Aykroyd also, you know, at the height of his fame as well. They're literally like, the chemistry's just there, man. And you know what I mean? It's just pure jokes. It's pure jokes. It's probably the first, I want to say this was probably the first Eddie Murphy film I'd ever seen.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. My entry was this, and then Beverly Hills Cop shortly followed very much after. It was never the other way around. This was, because literally, I was going to say before this, I think I'd watched Richard Pryor in Brewster's Millions, which is one of my favorite comedies ever of all time. But this was up there because, like, in my house, it was this, Brewster's Millions, constantly, mainly because my dad was a huge Eddie Murphy fan and Richard Pryor fan. So, you know, these films, The Distinguished Gentleman as well, just frequently playing in my house. So, yeah.
All right, cool. Much love. Alex, thoughts on Trading Places? I saw you nodding as soon as I mentioned it.
Up on my list as well. I've got it. It's probably about number 4 at the moment on my list because I've had a few things shift around. But yeah, I think same as Sacha, I think this might have been one of the earliest Eddie Murphy films I would have seen as well. And you know, you guys have kind of said it all, man. The chemistry between the two, you know, is probably beat. It's a great comedy. It's also a great Christmas movie, as we put it on our list previously as well. Yeah, it's just all around 80s.
All right, cool. Right, so now we're moving on to our number 3 pick. That is down to you, Sacha. What movie are you going with?
My number 2.
No, this is your first pick. This is your first pick.
I don't. Oh, like what is my what? Oh,
because obviously we're combining the list, right? So we all put a movie forward. So now you need to put a movie forward.
My number 2 or my number 3?
Whichever movie you want to add to the list.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Right.
Well, I guess
like we do every time, Sacha, on the top 10.
Sorry. So Trading Places.
So we've got Return of the Jedi and Trading Places. They're locked in.
Okay, cool. All right, then I will bring this one because no one's going to mention it. So, yeah. A gang of pirates have taken over the high seas. The military is powerless to stop them. But now the fate of his homeland is being threatened. And things are getting personal. Jackie Chan, Yoon Briel, and Sammo Hung unite. Project A in cinema.
Wow. Okay.
Project A. Oh my God. Okay. So back in the 90s, not the 80s, but in the 90s, when Channel 4 would do their Jackie Chan Friday film night. Okay. Which went on for weeks, where a lot of people my age got exposed to this man initially. Of course, there was Police Story. Of course, there was Armor of God. But Project A was one of these bad boy films that came out. Came out in 1983. It's Jackie Chan. He's a sailor, and he fights fucking pirates. And, yeah, all kinds of madness. So he almost... This is a film where he famously like broke his back. He literally clung on to dear life on top of a clock tower, and he's fighting the guy with one hand, and then he basically does a stunt where he has to drop from the tower and land on the canopy, and onto the floor. And he does the stunt, and he breaks his back, and guess what? He has to do the stunt again. He has to do the same shit again. Breathtaking film. Outtakes are mad. Stunts are insane. Him in his prime. This is a prime Jackie, not rush hour shit. This is prime Jackie. The dubbed version is the one that I recommend because it's funny as hell. We have British Chinaman. It's awesome. And but he's the greatest kung fu fighter in all of, you know what I mean? Like Hong Kong. And it's like, yeah, love it. Love the Cockney accent on that guy. I don't even know who that extra was, but when he came out with that line, I was like, that's fucking hilarious. It's
all right.
It's a classic. If anyone that's a hardcore Jackie Chan fan will know Project A is the one, and also it's the one where you have his partners in crime, Yuen Biao from Martial Law, and the great Sammo Hung from Martial Law, and Yuen Biao. Okay, that's why. If you don't know who Yuen Biao and Sammo Hung is, there's a great cameo of them two in 80 Days Across the World, where they go to Hong Kong or they go to China, and the three reunite for a moment, and all the Jackie Chan fans were like, yeah, where's their movie? We want to see their Western movie. You know what I mean? With the brothers united. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, this is one of the top ones. Whenever them three are together, it's like the Avengers before there was Avengers, okay, for hardcore Jackie Chan fans. So because there's a collection of films where it's like, what's it? Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars, Meals on Wheels, which is the first Jackie Chan film I ever seen, and this one, Project A, Part 1, because there is a Part 2, but that one doesn't have the brothers; it just has Jackie. But you know, it's good. But this one's memorable. Clock Tower fight, the bicycle fight that's been repeated in I think Rush Hour. Some of the bicycle tricks were repeated. This one's a little bit more hardcore because you know what I mean,
he's
like,
younger.
It's younger, and it's in China where there's no, like, you know, you can't
health and safety laws. Yeah.
It's raw. You know, pirates, him fighting pirates, him fighting everything. It's awesome, man. Check it out.
Yeah, and I've just looked it up, and he co-wrote it, Jackie Chan, as well, and he also directed it. So it's all Jackie.
And he sings.
Yeah. What else does he sing on? There's
everything. He sings all the soundtracks to his films.
Yeah, there was. Did he do the singing version for like Mulan or something like that? There was one where the international singers would sing certain songs of the movies, and he sung one of them. It was a Disney movie, and I can't remember which one it was.
I really don't know that, but yeah.
I'm gonna have to have a look at that up. But yeah, we'll have to do a Sacha top 10 of Jackie Chan movies.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Rush Hour is not on that list. None of his Western stuff is on that list. Okay, none of it. All
right. Oh, so he sang "I'll Make a Man Out of You" for Mulan for the special edition DVD release. So you can see it on YouTube. So if you type in "I Make a Man Out of You," and he sings on it apparently with Jackie Chan. Yeah, he does it in the Cantonese. So there you go. Alex, are you familiar with Project A?
I am not. No, so I can't join you on this one.
No.
If you like Jackie Chan,
I never really got onto that sort of Jackie Chan martial arts train back in the day.
You missed out, man. You missed out.
I'm a year younger than you, Sacha. You know, maybe it's just
maybe it's just the timing. Sacha, what we'll probably need to do, Sacha, is just have you maybe instead of a top 10, we'll need to do a Jackie Chan watch list. So like watch these in order, whether it's release order or look, this is where you should dip your toe in, this is where you should go to. Maybe we'll figure something out like that.
You know what? If I'm gonna do a Jackie Chan one, I gotta get two, 3 guys on.
Fine.
And one is a comedian.
Dylan on, right?
Yeah, Dylan. Yeah, Dylan.
We need Dylan and Imran on, right? We'll have to extend
Dylan and Imran, or I was going to say my friend Jed Dugdale, also known as Sim G, for all you guys into UK rap and grime and shit. Sim G, check his album, and Ben, my friend Ben, who's been on Zido's Gang a few times.
All right, put the feels out, man, and we'll do a Jackie Chan episode. Absolutely. All right, so we got 3 at the moment. So we have Return of the Jedi, Trading Places, and Project A. So Alex, we're coming back to you for your second pick. What is your next nomination?
I feel like now because we've only got 3, I feel like there's going to be a couple of others that you guys might pick. So I feel like I want to skip over those. Maybe pick something a little bit off kilter a little bit. So I'm going to go The Dead Zone, starring Christopher Walken.
Right. See, I didn't have this on my list. So is it the Dead Zone or Dead Zone?
The Dead Zone.
All right. Tell us about it.
Based on a Stephen King book. It's about a guy that Christopher Walken plays. He basically ends up in a coma for, I think it's about like 5 years or something like that. And when he awakes from the coma, he finds he has the ability when he touches people to like see their future and gets visions and stuff. Martin Sheen is also in it. He plays like a congressman or a senator or something that's up for like election. Chris Walken basically then discovers that through a vision that in the future he's going to become president and is basically going to start like World War III by nuking like Russians or whoever happens to be, you know, the bad guys at that time. And so it's then all about him sort of trying to come to terms with, well, if I know this is going to happen, do I stop it? And he basically sees the only way to stop it is to assassinate him before it can happen. So yeah, that's kind of how things start to play.
All right. Okay. And I've just had a look. It was directed by
David Cronenberg. Yeah,
David Cronenberg as well. Apparently, a bit of trivia on this movie is David Cronenberg fired a .357 Magnum loaded with blanks just off camera to make Walken's face seem more involuntary. And apparently, this was Christopher Walken's idea, so that's some method acting. But okay, Sasha, are you familiar with Dead Zone?
No, I've not really seen it. No.
No, I haven't. I'm a big Stephen King fan from the book's point of view, but I know there's quite a few of the earlier films I haven't seen. But yeah, Christopher Walken, Stephen King. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get in on this. It didn't even come up sort of like on my list. So
it did get made into a TV series as well back in. I don't know when it would be. Would it be early, like late no, maybe early 2000s. I can't remember. But that ran for quite a few seasons, and again, like things like that, like the special effects and stuff, had obviously moved on a little bit by then. So things like some of the visions were played out quite well, where you know he would sort of like be able to sort of like walk around within the visions, and it got a little bit sort of like CSI and stuff. But yeah, you know,
all right, cool.
I love all that shit.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So we'll move on to the next one. I'm very conflicted about putting this particular movie in, so I might wait and maybe save it for my third pick because I don't think anyone's going to pick it, but it's very dear to my heart. So I'll leave that for a moment. But there's two other films
popular, which do what you feel is right.
That's it, exactly. So I think I'll save it for my next one. So this one, I could go for the obvious, but I think someone else will pick this, or if not, it will definitely make the top 10 for that final pick. So I'll go for this one, which is War Games. So this is Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy, basically a high school student. David Lightman, Matthew Broderick, he's on whistling hacks into a military supercomputer while searching for new video games. After starting a game of global thermonuclear war, Lightman leaves the supercomputer activate the nation's nuclear arsenal in response to a simulated threat as the Soviet Union, and basically he realizes pretty much starting World War III for real. So basically Lightman, with the help from his girlfriend, who's played by Sheedy, have to find a way to alert the authorities and stop World War III. And it's actually a really decent thriller. It's sort of like your 80s teens up against like the military in a sense, or, you know, sort of like that versus the government or that higher power. But yeah, it's a really well-paced thriller. It builds suspense very well. Yeah, there's a couple of cheesy moments, but the premise is really good. And I'm surprised it's not something that hasn't been remade already. I think it's actually due a remake now from what I saw, but I think it's perfect movie for a remake, especially with kind of the technology and, you know, the fear of war and everything there is these days, especially with being able to remote missiles from anywhere you want. It's a real threat. It was directed by John Haddam. He also directed Saturday Night Fever, and he would go on to direct Short Circuit after this. But yeah, it's a strong movie. It's referenced a lot in other sci-fi material. It's referenced a lot in Ready Player One, the book version, not the movie. But in the book, it plays a key part in one of the gate tasks, stuff like that. He has to reenact the movie. And yeah, really, really solid film. Either you guys familiar with War Games?
Yeah, half of it.
It's my
Okay.
number. It's my number 3. It was
Right.
it was what I was going to go for. To be fair, next, but I thought no, I'll go Dead Zone because I'm pretty sure someone else is going to say War Games.
Yeah.
But
All
that's a
right.
great.
Cool.
I rewatched it not that long ago, to be honest, and it's still. I mean, obviously, like technology wise and stuff. Obviously, it doesn't sort of like hold up for today. But in terms of like being able, it's not like when those 80s films where you're rewatching, like, oh, actually, I can't sort of sit through this because it's just too
Mhm.
sort of like dated and cheesy. But no, it actually still holds up. It's that's a fantastic film.
Okay, great. So, Sasha, have you not watched it all? Is it kind of one of those movies that you kind of watched but not?
When I was a kid, this was a movie I fall asleep to because I thought it was shit. But that was young me. Well, that was young me. That was young me. It's just because, like, I was a kid and it was like, this film, why do we own it? Kind of thing.
Yeah, okay.
like it was like one of the first VHSs to go. Like go, gone, be gone. Because I never watched it. I never really watched it fully. I never watched it as an adult to give it its full kind of like due. And
Yeah.
whenever I've seen it, it's like the least thing I want to go watch, kind of thing. Because
Right. Okay.
I've grown up as a kid. I'm sure it's a good film. It's just I've just never given it a chance, and probably when I do see it, it'll probably be like, oh my god, that was kind of decent, man. But yeah, I've just never gravitated towards it ever. I guess.
Okay.
I mean, the plot sounds cool.
Yeah, like I say, it's right for a remake. But yeah.
But fast forward to when you're a kid in the 80s, it's probably not, you know what I mean, that exciting. You know what I mean, like but it was beyond my comprehension. But then, mind you,
Yeah, exactly. It's probably the age that you saw it. Now you probably appreciate the suspense a lot more.
Yeah. So a good example of this, and I'll probably get executed, but it's one my best friend Simon Marriott keeps reminding me, kind of thing. Heat is such a great film. Okay. And I saw that in cinema, and maybe it was the people I was around with at the time. It definitely was to a degree. We came out of that movie and we thought it was the most boringest film we'd ever seen in our lives. But that's because if you saw what our palette was comedies and action movies, like the Jerry Bruckheimer action movie, or you know what I mean? And when you're like literally being spoon-fed that, you're not ready for a real fucking movie. You're not ready for a real fucking thriller and shit. You know what I mean? I didn't start like getting into like proper films until I was like 17, you know? So yeah.
All right, cool. So War Games makes a list, one that Sasha's going to have to watch, and I think it's probably one that we could do a creative casting if we're going to recast it and redo that movie. So we'll probably look at doing that in the future. That'd be quite cool. All right, Sasha, what is your next pick? So just to remind you what we've already got, we've got Return of the Jedi, Trading Places, Project A, The Dead Zone, War Games. What's your next pick?
My next pick. Hang on. So how many is that? 4?
So we've on our list, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 5.
5.
You've got 2 more picks. You've got this one and 1 more pick for definite.
Oh, okay. I've got to choose wisely on these picks because there's some that I really want on there, but it's like they are popular films, but I don't know whether you guys are going to pick them.
That's it, because I've been thrown, because I've been looking at my list, and because I've got the Dead Zone and Project A in there, which I hadn't picked, I'm like, oh, how am I going to get the other films on the list?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I got one with a certain guy in a cape, but I don't know whether I'm going to put him.
Don't worry. If you don't put him, I've got him. So don't worry.
Okay, so long as he gets in there. But you know,
yes.
All right. In that case, then I'm going to pick. That's made a decision easier. Now I've got Sophie's choice with 3 films now. Yeah, a certain secret agent might have to go as well.
Ooh, but which one?
Yeah. There's that thing. But you know what? I'm gonna pick. I'm not gonna pick the obvious. I'm gonna go for a little bit of a comedy, Monty Python and the Meaning of Life.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, a film I got introduced to in my teens because I never really grew up on Monty Python in general. But my group of mates were really hardcore into it, and this was my entry point to those movies. And this film was fantastic. It was fucking hilarious, man. Just everything. John Cleese, Biggest Dickus, everything, man. If you haven't seen it, you're in
I'll
for a
hold my
treat.
hands up. I've not watched a Monty Python movie. I don't know why, don't know how, but yeah.
You're a very naughty boy. That's all I'm going to say. And that was the worst impersonation ever of it. I need the squeakier voice. So yeah, no, it's fucking hilarious, and it's definitely peak British humor kind of thing. It's up there. It's up there. All those films are up there, but this was a good entry point kind of thing. I say 100% watch it. It's hilarious. I don't even know who the guy that plays Brian is, but yeah, because the main character is called Brian. No, is it Meaning of Life? Wait, am I getting confused with films? Which one was Meaning of Life?
Yeah, The Meaning of Life was 1983.
Wait, give me a sec.
Are you thinking Life of Brian?
Yeah, I was thinking Life of Brian, but Meaning of Life was which one? Was that the one with Billy Connolly?
I don't know. I've only ever seen the Monty Python movies once, so they're kind of some of the stuff kind of like blurs together for me.
Oh wait.
So John Cleese is Fish 2, Eric Idle is Gunther, Terry Jones is Bert, Michael Palin is Window Washer. So
yeah, they all don't really help.
Yeah, that one. I'm totally getting confused with like Monty Python, so everyone's going to execute me. But this one's a banger too. This one's a banger too. Definitely watch it. Okay.
So it's still on your list, this one?
It's still on my list, man. It's still on my list.
Cool.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so yeah, I'm like I said, I'm not familiar with I'm familiar with the Monty Python sort of like franchise, if you will. And the Monty Python team, this one is they're trying to solve the most important question on Earth. What is the meaning of life? They do so by exploring the various stages of life, starting with birth. A doctor seems more interested in his equipment than delivering the baby or caring for the mother. A Roman Catholic couple have quite a lot of children because every sperm is sacred. You can kind of get the idea. So yeah. It's a part musical as well. So this is something that I need to invest some time in. I do need to watch some Monty Python movies because obviously you've got Life of Brian, Holy Grail, and stuff like that. So, okay, cool. Right. So Monty Python and the Meaning of Life, that's added to the list. Alex, we're back over to you for your third pick.
Oh, man. Okay, I feel like since it hasn't come up yet, even though it might be an obvious choice, I feel like I now have to put it in just to make sure it makes the list. So I'm going to go Scarface.
Good man. Okay.
I thought it would have come up by now already, so I'm like, no, I'm going to have to leave like the.
You know what? I was going to put Scarface in. My choice was Scarface or Meaning of Life, and I was like, I'm sure someone's got Scarface. But
yeah, exactly.
It's my number two, but I've kind of like I thought, well, no, someone else will say it by now, so I'll like go a little bit more obscure. But I've got to make sure it's in there, so I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to use that as my third choice.
All right. So why Scarface? What is it about Scarface?
I mean, although it's actually, it's not the original, it's their actual remake, but it's just so fantastic, man. Pacino, in his prime. It's just, every sort of gangster sort of drug lord kind of movie just seems to almost like pinch stuff and homage to it and that kind of thing. It's just it's the daddy of that sort of movie, I think.
Yeah,
for me.
No, definitely. Look, if you're not, I mean, you may have not. So people watching this may have not seen Scarface. If you're our age, you would have, but if you're younger, you might not have. But you'll have known the skit or the phrase "Say hello to my little friend." You'll know that, So it's Scarface, starring Al Pacino. It's a remake of the 1932 movie based on the 1929 novel by Armitage Trail. It's got Michelle Pfeiffer in it as well. So it's about Tony Montana, manages to leave Cuba during the Mariel Exodus of 1980. He finds himself in Florida refugee camp, but his friend Manny has a way out for them. Undertaking a contract killing, and arrangements will be made to get a green card. He's soon working for a drug dealer, Frank Lopez, and shows a mettle when a deal with the Colombian drug dealer goes bad. He also brings a new level of violence to Miami. Tony is protective of his younger sister, but his mother knows what he does for a living and disowns him. Tommy's impatient and wants it all, however, including Frank's empire and his mistress, Elvira Hancock. However, once on top, obviously his outrageous actions kind of means everything kind of comes crumbling down. The character is very heavily influenced by Al Capone, so it's not based on a real person in a sense, but it's a amalgamation, if that's the right word, of different characters. But the main one is Al Capone. It was directed by Brian De Palma. He previously to this, he did Carrie and he did Blowout, starring John Travolta, which made our top 10 list of 1981, I think it was. So that was his film directly before this. But then Palmer went on to direct films like The Untouchables, the first Mission Impossible movie with Tom Cruise, fantastic director. So yeah, Scarface is definitely on my list. Some great acting, and I love the whole drug cartel vibe. I like Narcos, I like that whole thing. So yeah, it is a classic movie, and when you think of Al Pacino, you think of Scarface. So Sasha, love for Scarface?
Of course, man. That was my number 5, to be honest. Okay, I do stuff on what I rewatch the most. Okay,
yeah.
So my top 10 are literally the films I watched the most, kind of thing. Growing up, I have a certain affinity to them, much like my Star Wars algorithm. I have a certain affinity to certain films more than others. Scarface is probably the best made movie and directed movie on this list, all of that year as well. So
yeah.
It's a cinematic classic. It stood the test of time. It's one of the key gangster films that basically brought inspiration for Grand Theft Auto, the games and stuff, for sure, especially Vice City. And yeah, man, its influence across the genre is forever there, kind of thing.
Okay, so I'll go on to my pick, and yeah, this is the one where I said it's close to my heart, but some people may not put it on their list. It is A Man in a Cape. It is Superman 3. So I know that there isn't necessarily a lot of love for this particular movie out of the franchise. A lot of people think, well, this is kind of where it started dropping off in terms of the 4 films by Christopher Reeve. But there's a lot to love about this movie. I'm sorry. So, yes, they obviously tried to go a bit more of a comedic route. Richard Pryor was like at the top of his game, and they're like, we can get him in this movie. That's going to bring us box office. We had the evil Superman. So we have Superman split into 2 personalities due to some synthetic kryptonite. We see Superman get drunk. He's mean to kids. It's awesome. And obviously they have a fight between the two. And it has a scene which is, which as a child scared me, where the machine traps the woman in her and converts her to like this cyborg. That was some scary shit when I was younger, man. That was kind of some freaky ass shit with the computer taking her over. I was like, yo, that was a terrifying scene. But look, is it the best written? No, it's not. Did it have its problems? Of course it did. So because obviously we covered Superman 2 in a previous episode of the top 10s, and we obviously discussed about the original first 2, where they were kind of being made back to back. The producers said to the director, Richard Donner, look, focus on the first one. We want to get the first one out there. We have to meet our, release window. He did, and they ended up firing him from the second movie. So he couldn't finish it, and they brought in another director to finish it. But obviously after that happened, the actors, kind of rebelled a little bit. Margot Kidder, she expressed her disgust to the producers about the firing of Richard Donner, and as a result, the producers basically cut her role to like 12 lines and less than 5 minutes of screen time for Superman 3. They were like, yeah, okay, your character's kind of done, but at least we can put your name on there, but yeah, you're not really in this movie. So obviously cut her out, put Lana Lang in there, and kind of had made that sort of like the love interest. Reeves didn't want to come back either, so he wasn't happy with the decision that was made. And so production started going ahead, and the producers tried to replace him. Actually, the role was actually offered to John Travolta, and he turned it down. They went to a couple of other people, but they weren't interested. And apparently the rumors like Tony Danza was offered the role, and he was going to do it. But then Reeves changed his mind, or realized, look, if he's going to do it, I might as well do it. And he came back and did it. But he wanted more influence on the script, so he wanted to make some changes. But also, it was the first time he had top billing on a Superman movie. Because the first one you had Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman. The second one you had Gene Hackman. So it's the first time Christopher Reeves had top billing on his own Superman movies. But even after this movie, Chris Reeves was not happy with the third one. He expressed in the interviews how he hated it, how he turned out, and he swore he'd never play the role again. Obviously, he was persuaded to come back and do Superman 4 again in exchange for more input on the script. But there we go. We'll come on Superman 4 another day. But yeah, I just got a lot of love.
Superman 4, didn't he?
Sorry?
He directed Superman 4, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he's got a partial, at least directed or partial directing credit for it. Yeah.
No, he directed it.
He directed it, right?
Yeah,
okay, fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, I've got a lot of love Superman 3. So Sasha, you wanted that on your list, I take it, yeah?
Yeah, that was on my list. That was my number 7. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, it's not the greatest Superman movie, but it's all we had, damn it. It's all we had. Okay. Like, seriously, back in 83, there were only 3 superhero movies. Batman hadn't shown his face around. He was only on the TV. We had 1, 2, and 3 of the OG fucking Man of Steel. All right. So you and your, I got to wait a year for fucking a Marvel movie. Oh, that's too long. Oh, I need my instant gratification. Fuck you. All right. Fuck you. All of you. Fuck you wanting your 4 fucking Marvel movies a year. Fuck you. I hope you get like 1 Marvel movie like every like 4 years. All right. Because that's how long we had to wait. All right. We had to wait years, bro. Years for this shit.
That's how it's going at the moment, mate, with the way Marvel's going, mate. It will be 1 every 4 years at this rate.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, it needs to. We need to dilute it, man. We need to dilute it and make the shit great again. But like Superman 3, for its time, regardless of how it doesn't hold up compared to 1 and 2, for sure. For everything you just said. But you know what?
Reeves is still fantastic in it.
Oh yeah, but Reeves has never been the problem with those films. You know what I mean?
True,
like, Reeves does not drop the ball once. Okay, it's like even Harrison Ford. It's the same thing can be said for Harrison Ford with the Indiana Jones films. It's like he's never been the problem with those films. Even the latest film, he was not the problem. It's everything else, and that's the same thing with Christopher Reeves here. This film is fire. Richard Pryor being Richard Pryor. What's there not to love, man? Yeah, I say bring that character back in the next Superman film. Bring Gus Gorman back and have Eddie Murphy play him. I'll watch that film all day. I'll straight up watch that.
That's a take. That's a take.
That needs to happen. Bring back
at
Gus.
James Gunn. At James Gunn.
At James Gunn.
Alex, Superman 3. Did you love it as a kid? Do you still love it now?
Yeah, I mean, again, for a lot of the same reasons that you mentioned, Ken, already. It's like, like when she gets pulled into that machine and transforms into that android robot, whatever it's supposed to be. Yeah, as a young kid, that was scary as shit. That used to freak me out.
Yeah, right.
But again, I think the highlight for me in that film is always like when he splits in 2 and he battles himself. That was just so well done. Evil Superman was just cool, you know. Flicking peanuts in the bar, all that kind of stuff.
Just funny, man.
As a kid, man, it was just great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I just want to clarify. So Superman 4 Quest for Peace was actually directed by Sidney J. Furie. I was
wrong.
So yes.
I think he wrote it. I think he wrote it or had a huge influence on the script, I think.
He definitely had a huge influence on the script. I don't know if he had he's got a writing credit. Yeah, so Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, and Christopher Reeves. Yeah, so he's got a writing credit. And that was the main reason he came back, so he could get a writing credit on it. So yeah. Okay, so that makes the list. Right. So Sasha, you got one more pick, but then we've got one more between us to add to the list. So what is your film you want locked in on this?
I feel like it's 1983 again. It's Battle of the Bonds. Who should I pick?
It is Battle of the Bonds.
Sean Connery? Or should I pick Roger Moore? Let's face it.
While you're having a little think, I'll just kind of explain a little bit about what that is. So 1983 is the first...
I'll run that down. I'll run that down.
Yeah, so it's the only time we ever got 2 Bond movies in 1 year.
Yeah, that is true. So way back before Bond was even made, what was his name? Ian Fleming. You know, was offered a take on the Bonds, right, by a producer called is it Kevin McElroy?
Yeah, Kevin McElroy.
Yeah, there we go.
Sorry, Kevin McClory. Yeah.
McClory. Okay. Kevin McClory. Okay. And basically, Kevin McClory and him, they went and wrote a script for James Bond. This film did not get picked up by anybody because at the time they were like, a British guy as a hero? No, because that was Hollywood's mentality. We're just villains, apparently. So, so yeah, never got made. A version of Casino Royale got made with Jimmy Bond, played by an American, and then obviously eventually we got the Cubby Broccoli's production of Dr. No. That became the series that we have now, owned by the Broccolis. Fast, but 5 movies in, they go to make the movie Thunderball, okay, based on Ian Fleming's novel Thunderball. But there's a snag there. Kevin McElroy, whatever the hell he's called, he decides he decides to try to sue the Broccolis because he feels that he wrote enough content in Thunderball, the Thunderball
novel
script, because the script he wrote would eventually become the Thunderball novel, that he felt that he came up with stuff like Spectre and the Secret Organization and stuff like that. And so what happened was they agreed that they would use his original script so that he can get full screen credit and he'd get paid for his duties and royalties. And then they went and made Thunderball. And then obviously the Bond series persisted to do well, etc. And then McClory was like, well, hang on a minute. I created Spectre, but they're using Blofeld. I created Blofeld. So, or had something to, and that became a big legal battle. So that's why Spectre and Blofeld kind of eased out of the Bond films in the original run. And then what happened was, comes to 1983, or the early 80s, McClory, whatever the hell we're calling him now, Fred, he decides, you know what, I'm going to make my own Bond movie because I'm going to base it on the script that I wrote. And it went to court. The Broccolis were like, no, you can't do that, blah, 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 blah. And basically, he won and he could go make his movies on the condition that's based on his script. So it was like, okay, cool. So enter the movie Never Say Never Again, which is basically a remake of Thunderball with what's her name, Kim Basinger and Mr. Bean. Rowan Atkinson's in it, and but it's the exact same film. It's the exact same film. But the big hype was because Sean Connery was at a feud with the Broccolis. He decided to join this production as a big FU, and all the money he made from this movie he gave to the Scottish Parliament because he was big.
So by obviously the time when this movie was being made, Connery had already left the role of James Bond, and obviously Roger Moore had already been in the role for some time. So McClory was able to get Sean Connery back, so it was very much a return back to being James Bond. So it was very much Roger Moore versus Sean Connery that year at the box office, and it was 2 Bonds. But McClory's version, it didn't have the theme tune for Bond because he didn't have the rights to that. It didn't have the opening like gunshot down the barrel. And obviously all the other characters had been recast, like M and Q and stuff like that, because they'd all been returning in the same franchise with Roger Moore. But obviously this was all completely different casts. So it was really the only identifying person was Sean Connery as James Bond. But it still did well at the box office. I think there's only about just over 20 million difference in between the takings between the two, because then we had Octopussy by Roger Moore.
Yeah. Funnily enough, though, back in the 90s, or right in the 80s and early 90s, this guy wanted to make a James Bond TV show based on his script. And obviously it went to court. And then during a 7-year hiatus, we lost Timothy Dalton because that's what happened. And then we got GoldenEye because they couldn't make a movie until that court battle was settled. And then that's how we got the Brosnan era, basically, on a 7-year hiatus. But then when the guy died, he was set up at Sony. And in a strategic move, the Broccolis decided to partner with Sony to distribute the Bond films for the first couple of Daniel Craig ones. or first 4, I think. And during that collaboration, they not only got the rights to film Casino Royale, the first book that Ian Fleming had ever done, but when this guy died, the rights got reverted back to Sony, and that's how we got the movie Spectre, bringing back Blofeld and the secret organization. Because originally their plans while making the Daniel Craig films were they were going to call it Quantum. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
create a different secret organization.
Which is why you had Quantum of Solace.
Yeah, that's right. So, and in the video games, they call it Octopus, actually. So, after the symbol. But yeah, but that's some trivia there. But anyway, funnily enough, Never Say Never Again is not my pick. My pick is Octopussy.
So you've gone for the main Bond, not the multiverse Bond.
Yeah, man, because I seen Thunderball. Okay, fight scenes underwater in slow motion ain't that exciting. Okay, like I'm sorry, it's not the one, man. I'll give Never Say Never Again this. You have Kim Basinger in your movie. Okay, that eye candy I can watch all day long. But yeah, Octopussy, what's there not to like, man? Roger Moore.
Yeah, it's like his 6th film, so like it's well into the role at this point.
6th film, and yeah.
Okay, cool. Alex, a fan of Octopussy? Did it make your list?
I think it might have actually been the first Bond film I saw as a kid. Strangely.
Quite possibly, yeah, because of the time it came out.
I know I definitely started on Roger Moore, again, just because of obviously our age and stuff. Obviously, I was still been too young to see it in the cinema, but I'm pretty sure that, like, certainly the first Bonds I saw were Roger Moore. Way
definitely, yeah. I think mine might have been Moonraker. I think that might have been mine on TV.
Okay.
But
but no, for some reason I feel like this was the first one I saw. I don't know if that is true or if it's just a false memory. Sorry, we just waited to my brain. But I'm pretty sure. But it's definitely sort of in my honorable mentions list anyway. So yeah,
honorable mentions, yeah. Okay, fine. Right, so we've got a top 9. We've only got 1 spot left, so I'm just going to run down what we've got and then kind of run down some of the films that I've thought about. You guys can mention the other films we haven't mentioned, and we have to come up with our final pick. So we've got Return of the Jedi, Trading Places, Project A, The Dead Zone, War Games, Monty Python, The Meaning of Life, Scarface, Superman 3, and Octopussy. We've got 1 more spot. So I'm going to shout out some of the other movies that I was thinking of. So in my list, I also had Mr. Mum. So comedy with
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton, yeah, it kind of escapes me. And a lot of people refer to this before he became Batman. Basically, a lot of people's like, you're casting the guy from Mr. Mum, this comedy guy, this guy who looks after kids. He's this comedic actor. And yeah, it's a funny movie. It's a solid movie. So that was on there. Risky Business. Tom Cruise, Rebecca De Mornay.
Yeah.
Big hit for Tom Cruise when that came out. Kind of really showed his star power and what he was about and how he could carry a movie. So that was really big. We have Sudden Impact, Dirty Harry. Clint Eastwood was back. This was the only Dirty Harry movie that Clint Eastwood actually directed as well. There's a lot of death in this movie, but that's a solid one. And then the big one of that year in terms of the performances and Academy Awards is Terms of Endearment. So this is about widow Aurora Greenway, played by Shirley MacLaine, and her daughter Emma, who's played by Deborah Winger. And they have a strong bond, but Emma marries a teacher called Flap Horton, who's played by Jeff Daniels, against her mother's wishes. When the marriage grows sour due to Flap's cheating, Emma eventually splits from him, returning to her mother, who's involved with a former astronaut, played by Jack Nicholson. Soon, Emma learns that she has terminal cancer, and in the hospital, supported by Aurora, she tries to make peace with Flap and her children. So that's the premise of the movie. Like I say, huge star power there. So the awards that it won, Shirley MacLaine won Best Actress. For that, Deborah Winger was also nominated for Best Actress. Jack Nicholson won Best Supporting Actor, the Oscars for that. It also, like I said, had Jeff Daniels, John Lithgow, Danny DeVito. It was directed by James Earl Brooks, and he won Best Director, and he won Best Film at the Oscars. That's a big contender. It's a very big movie, very dramatic, did well at the box office as well. So that's in with a shout. Another couple of them was Big Chill, which I haven't watched, which is again a comedy, a lot of famous faces in that, and A Christmas Story, which seems to be high on a lot of people's lists, but I've never actually seen A Christmas Story from 1983. but it did well at the box office, so I thought I'd give it a shout. Alex, what other films haven't we mentioned that you got on your list?
So you mentioned Sudden Impact. That was quite high on my list. King of Comedy with De Niro and Scorsese. I think it was 83. I'm pretty sure.
I think it was actually King of. Or no, I think that was 82.
Oh, okay.
Hang on, let me have a look at the box office.
So, it came up with 83, so it might have been incorrect.
Yeah, so from a box office record, it came out in 82. But yeah, I think it did a lot of money in 83 because of the time of release.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. What else did I have on there?
Oh, actually, no. Hang on. King of Comedy. Is this? Oh no, this is the King of Comedy. Is that the same thing?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So,
well, I think the Scorsese one is the King of Comedy.
Yeah, that's right. So it's listed as 82, but then it's also in theaters, release date February 83. So actually, from a domestic box office point of view, King of Comedy actually comes out in 83. So yeah, it qualifies.
Fair enough. That was on my list. I think we've had this debate before, so I'm not sure if this will be 83, but The Evil Dead came up on whatever I was looking at as 83.
Yeah, so this one actually qualifies for 83 because of the actual release date. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Not that I'm a horror guy, but it was just, I think it's probably still a classic for even for people that aren't into horror can sort of appreciate it. Going down a comedy route, again, just being I grew up as a big sort of Steve Martin fan, so The Man with Two Brains came out in 83, I think.
Oh, right.
I had that.
I've not seen it in a long, long time, but I remember sort of seeing that as a kid. And sort of classic sort of Steve Martin. Was there anything else? I think you mentioned Risky Business already. The Outsiders. Again, it's a film I've not seen, but obviously I know it's well renowned and
also a film that came out that year, which we haven't mentioned, is Flashdance. That was,
going to say, that's also the next one.
Yeah, it was number 3 at the box office. Took a lot of money.
But,
and Staying Alive, that was there as well.
Yeah, that was on there as well. And then the only other thing I put on there, just again, being sort of like a vampire fan and a David Bowie fan, The Hunger came out in 1983, directed by Tony Scott, which is, again, a film I've not seen in a long time, but it's a little bit kind of out there and a bit different to your usual sort of vampire fare.
Okay. All right. Sasha, take us through the remainder of your list, or you can run through your whole list if you want.
Sure. So Return of Jedi, Project A, Trading Places, Octopussy, Scarface, Monty Python and the Meaning of Life, Superman 3, Never Say Never Again, The King of Comedy, The Man with Two Brains, honorable mention, Staying Alive, the John Travolta sequel to Saturday Night Fever, directed by Sylvester Stallone, and the strangest film of 1983 that I saw was DC Cab, starring Mr. T.
What?
Check the trailer, and you're just going to be like, what? I've never seen this movie, but I saw the trailer.
I've never heard of this movie.
I want to see this film.
Mr. T, Gary Busey. What?
Yeah.
I didn't even know this movie existed.
I saw that. I was like, I'm in. I'm in.
Damn.
And it's a comedy.
Okay.
It's not even an action movie. It's a comedy.
Directed by Joel Schumacher. What? Where has this film been? Damn. Okay. Adam Baldwin is in there. Yep. Wow. Okay. Bill Maher. Okay. This is all news to me. So storyline: the tale of a hapless group of cabbies and a rundown cab company owned by Harold. Albert comes to town with the dream of starting his own cab company, but needs to motivate Harold's employees to want to make something out of themselves. It's only when Albert is kidnapped that the cabbies must decide whether or not they are loyal to Albert and his cause. Wow. Okay. This goes on the watch list
with the trailer to this film.
Yeah. As long as I don't get taken down for copyright, but yeah. I'll add it in. Right. Okay. Well, that's news to me. So wow. Okay. Okay. So based on all these films, what do you guys reckon? So both of you got A Man with Two Brains. Instantly enough, I've never watched it. But based on all the films that we've mentioned, what are people thinking? What do we think needs to go on here?
I'm cool with Man with Two Brains not being on there because it was like low
Okay.
on my list. And
Yeah,
even,
it was pretty low on mine. To be honest, I mean, I've got like Sudden Impact. Obviously, you mentioned as well, Ken. That was probably the highest on my list out of what's we've all kind of like ran off.
Yeah, I think Risky Business was the highest I had that wasn't mentioned. Well, isn't
King
on
of
the list at the
Comedy,
moment.
King of Comedy again. It, like,
Yeah, see, the only thing is I haven't seen that, so
yeah,
that could make the list.
I've seen it, and look, I'm a Scorsese fan, and I do like the film, and I did enjoy it. It's not my best Scorsese film, but I understand why it's so influential and stuff. Obviously, it inspired Todd Phillips's Joker movie. That's quite evident in when you look at it and look at Joker, you totally see the resemblance between the two films. It's a very good film, but like I said, just because it's a renowned good film, I have to go with what I enjoyed growing up, and you know, what I mean, what you know, this like technically it's a fantastic film, and it's up there with Return of the Jedi, or no, with Scarface kind of thing.
Yeah,
but you know, even though it's my number 9, that's because I was scrambling for stuff that I had seen, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
because there was a lot of films you said there in your list, like Terms of Endearment and all of those films. I ain't seen those films, so they weren't.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen Terms of Endearment either, and I was like, holy crap, this is such a big Oscar winning film. I'm surprised because I haven't seen it because of Jack Nicholson effect, you know, and the fact that he won an award for it and hadn't watched it. You know, don't mean to be sexist in terms of the other female leads who, you know, were nominated for this, but James Earl Brooks as well in terms of his film catalogue. You know, big influence on The Simpsons as I grew up and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a film that I definitely need to go back and watch. But same as the King of Comedy. So okay, so Alex, if you had to pick one to make the list, what would it be? King of Comedy, Man of Two Brains, Sudden Impact. What would it be?
I think being 80s is the only one that you should also do it. I think I would go Sudden Impact. I think Dirty Harry should be in there. So that'd probably be my vote.
Okay, cool. Sasha, what film would you pick?
What's the list at the moment?
So we've got on the list Return of the Jedi, Trading Places, Project A, The Dead Zone, War Games, Monty Python and the Meaning of Life, Scarface, Superman 3, and Octopussy.
Okay. I guess you should turf out War Games and put in Dirty Harry.
Yeah, there's no reason to turf out War Games. Dirty Harry can make the list. This is an extra one. War Games is staying in.
I'm just throwing it out there, man. I'm just saying.
War Games needs to stay, mate. I'm sorry. 2 versus 1, mate. War Games is
War Games is staying. War Games is staying. I think I'm torn between Sudden Impact and Risky Business. I think they're the two that I'm torn between. But yeah,
to be fair, I was going to say, yeah, if I would be, you know, if you wanted to put sort of like Tom Cruise in there at Risky Business, I would have been cool with that. So if you know, if the choice is between those two and Satch has a preference out of those two, I'll go with them with the majority.
Satch, what would you go with? Would you go with Sudden Impact or Risky Business?
I haven't seen either of them, so I don't really care.
Yeah, have you got a coin? Have you got a coin? Just flip a coin.
Yeah, I was just going to see actually. I'm literally going to get a coin.
This is how top tens are done, mate. Professional.
This is exactly. This is the highest high tech as the creative control top 10 goes. Flip a coin for the last spot. All right, here we. I need to nominate something. So, Alex. For
the record, Sacha has not seen any of the Dirty Harrys.
Right. Okay. Well, see, there you go. So you got some films to watch too.
Otherwise, I'm sure if I did, I might have had some strong words for like Clint Eastwood over Tom Cruise. But then, you know, at the moment, it's a stalemate. I'm not getting involved, man. I'm like, cool.
That's cool. So, all right. So we're going to go with heads for Sudden Impact, and then Risky Business is tails. So it's tails. Risky Business. So there we go. Little 2p. Risky Business makes it. What's that?
So you can't beat Tom Cruise.
No, exactly. So yeah, Risky Business. I don't think have we spoken much about it. Not. So basically, Tom Cruise, he's ecstatic when his parents are going away on vacation for a few days, and he's a high school senior called Joel, and he cuts loose with his best friend called Miles, and after an attempt at securing services of a prostitute goes slightly awry, Joel hires gorgeous Lana, played by Rebecca De Mornay, for a night of delight. Stunned by the amount of Lana's bill, the next morning, Joel grows frantic after he crashes his father's Porsche. In an effort to raise money fast, he turns his house into a brothel. So that's your premise for Risky Business. Yeah, like I said, it's a great movie. Tom Cruise really showed his star power in this, and was the start of something special. And kind of explores the end of innocence, kind of in your good 18 teen kind of way. It's got a decent soundtrack as well. And it obviously has the infamous dance scene where Tom Cruise dances with his shirt and underwear. Yeah, so there we go. All right, so there we go. Risky Business makes a list, and that is our top 10. So I think compared to the other years, it wasn't as easy because there was a lot of films which were good, but not this must make the list. I think last, 82, we definitely was able to come at those a lot quicker. But again, a lot of movies made the list, but weren't necessarily like Oscar winners or like award winners and stuff like that. You know, if all of us had watched Terms of Endearment, that might have made a list. But hey, this is our list, so come at us. What are we going to do? So yeah, sound off in the comments. Let us know what you thought of our list. So our top 10 list of 1983, we have Return of the Jedi, Trading Places, Project A, The Dead Zone, War Games, Monty Python, The Meaning of Life, Scarface, Superman 3, Octopussy, and Risky Business. So like I say, sound off in the comments. Let us know what you thought, which of your films made the list, which didn't. What do you think you'd replace on the list with? And you can sound off in the comments on our YouTube channel, or even on Spotify, or you can catch us on Twitter at CC Movie Podcast. We've also got an Instagram page and a Facebook page where you'll be able to make all these comments. Right, guys, thank you very much for joining me today. Much appreciated. Any final thoughts before we go?
No, nothing from me.
Go, Sacha. Anything from you?
Nope.
All right. So if it's all worked out, as soon as this podcast, just before this podcast ends, you'll be able to see the trailer for DC Cab, because I need to see this. So I'm going to put this on the end of this podcast because that sounds batshit crazy. Right. So thank you very much for listening. And as always, until next time, peace out.
Washington, D.C., seat of the nation, served by the dedicated men and women of DC Cab.
We're the worst company in town, and we know it.
Where to, baby?
Nowhere with you.
You ain't got no company. You have an asylum.
Kill.
Get out of my cab, I'm ready.
Pleased to meet you, Miss Oswald.
They had enough class.
How do you do?
My cab ain't no motel. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You're a pitiful specimen of manhood.
Enough style.
Just as I suspected. Look at this room. It isn't fit for Caucasians.
But where y'all going? What it look like?
Enough integrity.
You charge Mr. and Mrs. Tomatsu $195? They had a lot of luggage.
Enough spirit. To drive a whole city crazy.
You don't have to shut us down. This company is closed, pending further investigation.
But when it looked like their number was up, that's when they really got down.
Make an investment in DC Cab.
Are you saying that we'd be like partners?
If I wanted responsibility, I'd have been a damn sex surrogate.
We just might make something of ourselves.
Well, not actually do anywhere for a few years.
They proved that anybody can be somebody if they're ready to reach for a big enough dream.
And I ain't never going back to being what I was before. Never.
So put your life in the hands of Adam Baldwin, Charlie Barnett, Irene Cara, Max Gale, Bill Maher,
Tough to be a man, baby.
Paul Rodriguez, Mr. T, and Gary Busey. It's everything you always wanted in a cab company. And less. PC Cab.